Welcome to the Two Geeks and a Microphone podcast, your one-stop shop for television, movie, video games, comic books, book reviews, and more. Now, without further ado, here's Steven and Mike.
Hello there. So who talks first? You talk first. I talk first.
Welcome, everybody, to the Two Geeks and a Microphone show. We are so glad that you are joining us today. I am your co-host, Mr. Stephen Boster, along with my illustrious one and only co-host, Mr. Michael Shanks. Mike, say hey to everybody.
Good morning to all you geeks out there in Geekdom Land.
All righty then. Well, hey, everybody. We are here continuing our road or journey to the Batman series. This is number 3, and we are discussing Batman Court of Owls, and as well as kind of doing a contrast comparison to the Batman versus Robin. Sorry, Mike and I got in a big discussion because while we were watching, I said, okay, we're ready to watch Batman v. Robin. And what did you say?
I said, why do you call it V? It's versus. It's
Right.
bad enough that we gotta, we as a society seem to reduce everything down. So do we really need to reduce versus to V?
Right.
Oh my gosh. And it all stems from Batman v Superman.
It does. It does.
But
It's
then
force
again,
of habit.
Okay, I will give him this. The actual title of that film is Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Yes.
It's like, could you have picked a longer freaking title for that movie? So I guess that's the reason they reduced the VS versus to just V, because that saved up one spot.
Right. Well, no, too. You got the little period too, by the way. So the S in the period.
Whatever.
I just tease it.
Gosh.
Well, hey, we are excited. I'm excited for sure. I can speak for myself easily. I'm excited for the new The Batman movie. And
I'm excited. I've got a couple hesitations. There's a couple things I'm concerned about.
I will reserve judgment until after I see it.
I'm not saying that it's gonna be bad. There's just some things that I'm like,
okay.
making me nervous.
So everybody, just so you know, next week we are going to do our The Batman discussion, movie review, and stuff like that. So why don't we just
about it though?
Let's just lay it on the table real quick. What are some of your concerns about it, and we'll see what happens. So,
my biggest concern is the Riddler himself.
And why about the Riddler? Because he doesn't look like the Riddler?
He doesn't feel like the Riddler at all.
He looks like Hush.
Well, no, I think he looks more like a steampunk scarecrow is what I think he looks like.
Okay.
I don't even think he looks like Hush. He doesn't have wrappings around him, Well,
I thought he kind of did a little bit.
I think I could accept him more if he looked like Hush. But he doesn't look like the Riddler at all, and I'm just concerned. I'm just concerned.
Right.
I'm a big Batman fan, and I like the Riddler the way he is. I don't like this idea of a steampunk looking
Riddler.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I have heard some people say they're concerned about Robert Pattinson.
I have some slight concerns, but I don't. I will reserve judgment until
Yeah, and I'm just saying this now. He gets a lot of static from his role in the the Twilight Saga or whatever. That everyone's. But I'm thinking, dude, have you seen the movies that he's put out since then? He has worked on his craft, and I because of that, I'm excited about seeing him in the Batman to see how he does. And
don't get me wrong, I'm excited about the movie. I am. It looks really good. Just I like things to fit with my comic book adaptations, and I'm worried that it's not gonna happen. That's all.
Right.
Now, as far as Robert Pattinson playing the Batman, I have to say, I still remember 1989. You and I were both seniors in high school, on the verge of graduating, and we started seeing all the trailers. Well, before we even seen the trailers, I would guess actually at the end of '88, we started hearing all the rumors. Now, back then, we didn't have the internet and everything was instantaneous. We would catch things from entertainment shows on television and magazines. That's how that was our internet.
That's right.
And everything was a buzz that Michael Keaton was going to play Batman. And I am a huge Michael Keaton fan. Not just because he's Batman. Now, granted, he is Batman. After all, as he always says, I'm Batman. But I am a huge fan of him as an actor in general. He is one of my favorite actors. And Jack Nicholson is one of my others, which, boom, I got both of them together in '89 Batman. Anyway, it was announced that he was going to play Batman. And my first thought was, what? Mr. Mom is going to play Batman? How's that going to work? You know?
Right.
So I'm reserving judgment about the sparkly, twilighty vampire playing Batman until I see him in the role. So
right on. I'm right there with you.
If Mr. Mom can do it, a sparkly vampire can do it. That's all I got to say.
I like that. We'll probably come back to that next week. If Mr. Mom can do it, a sparkly vampire can do it. That's good. Well, so this is our journey, everybody. So next week, I'm pretty excited about watching, the movie, The Batman. And Mike had the brilliant idea last month to say, hey, we should do several Batman episodes to kind of lead up to it. And so our first episode in this journey, if you haven't heard it yet, is our Women of Batman episode. And we went through three top 10 lists about the women in Batman's life. And I think it was the most important, the villain, oh my goodness, I can't remember the third one. I got them out of order.
The most important women in Bruce Wayne's life.
Yes.
The top 10 female villains in the Batman.
Yep. And then who could take over the mantle?
And then who is most likely who could take over the mantle of the Bat? Those are the three. And that I thought that was a good discussion. I enjoyed that.
It was great discussions. We had great interactions too. And then last week we did Hush. A part 2 in our journey was Hush, the comic versus the movie. And I tell you what, and everybody else in the say that again. Yeah, read the comic.
Read the comic.
Yeah, everybody in the chat who had seen the movie and read the comic, everybody blasted the movie. So, and it was so funny. Some people were like, "Don't waste your time with the movie. Read the comic." And we all agree the art was great. Yeah. So today here on Two Geeks and a Microphone Show, we are doing Batman Court of Owls and Beyond. And the reason I say and beyond was because the Court of Owls is kind of a long series. But if you try to go to the comics, you'll see Court of Owls, Night of the Owls, City of Owls, that kind of a thing. And so it's the whole Court of Owls episode. And where some people reference it that, some people don't. They only reference the first part. So I want to clarify that. But again, we wanted to compare it to a film. We're like, well, where have they done Court of Owls in a movie or in an animated kind of thing? And so Batman versus Robin brings in the story of Court of Owls, sort of, and they are different. We're going to talk about that too as well. So that is today's show. And Mike had not read Court of Owls. I had, because you had read Court of Owls.
No, I had not.
Yeah, and I loved it. So he indulged me this time, so I appreciated the fact that he got me to really go through and read.
Well, and this was your idea to do Court of Owls, and you threw out Batman versus Robin, which I'm like, I'm all up for Batman versus Robin. I've watched those movies, and technically it's said that is the second film in a trilogy of Batman animated, because you have Batman and Robin, Batman versus Robin, and then you have Batman Bad Blood. When you take them as a whole, I don't really see it as a trilogy, because Batman Bloodlines is a little bit separated from Batman and Robin and Batman versus Robin. Now, Batman and Robin and Batman versus Robin, I see them definitely as a two-parter.
Right.
They're really good films. But I think they're good individually on their own. You know, you can
right.
take them individually. Hey, before we go any further, we should
Yeah.
probably say that we've added a new member to our team. So we officially have a chat moderator. So we'll bring in our other team member just for a moment. So
hi, Megan.
Hi.
So Megan will be moderating. Megan's my daughter. She's been on the show a couple times. We had her on for Halloween and Ghostbusters.
Yep.
So Megan will be in there moderating our chats. Behave and be nice to her.
Right. Thank you, Megan. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Megan.
All right. And now do a big shout out to Derek is here. Hey, Derek, good to have you with us.
Yes,
Derek. He was commenting on what you said, which was great book. That was a great book talking about the Court of Owls. And he also says, what does he say? Scott Snyder is one of my favorite Batman writers. And I quite I enjoyed that. You've got a clip to play for us later on. Was that Scott Snyder in the clip?
Yeah, that was Scott Snyder in the clip. Yeah, I do.
Okay, that's coming up. We're gonna have an interesting thing. So whenever you want to play that, when we get to that point, this should be really good. So anyway, so here's the dealio. So everybody, how do you want to do this? We normally give a rating, kind of an overview rating, and then kind of go from there. But this is so unique and different because really we're following a storyline, because Batman versus Robin was really different than the comics to a certain degree.
It was quite a bit different. But I will say this, they did not advertise that animated film as the Court of Owls.
That's true. They did not.
You know, it's not like Hush. Hush was not only, I mean, it literally had the Hush artwork on the cover of the DVD and Blu-ray. You know, it was literally, oh, this is Hush. And then of course us Red Hush said, no, this isn't Hush. This is a different story. Now, I think Batman versus Robin is, I think it just borrows from the Court of Owls stories, but nowhere did they really say that it was actually Court of Owls. I gotta apologize because I'm having some green screen, blue screen issues. I've had for the last few weeks, and I'm just looking at myself in my monitor, and it looks like I'm like I think Derek said last week, I'm beaming up or something. So apologize in advance. I will try to get this worked out by our next episode, or well, maybe our next episode. We'll see.
Right. We'll talk about that soon too. Big ratings. Batman versus Superman. I mean, see, I did it, dadgummit. I was trying not to. Batman versus Robin, as a story on its own, really centered around the aspect of the relationship with Batman versus Robin. And Talon, the villain, if you want to say the villain that we have in Court of Owls that's introduced, really has he's different. He is different. And he's trying to pull Robin away from Batman and, trying to get him to, I don't know if he's trying to get him to become the next Talon or what he's trying to do.
I don't think he's trying to get him to be the next Talon. I think he's just trying to get him to join him as a Talon. As a second Talon. That was my interpretation. I mean,
but the movie was all about that dynamic, really. But the books, Court of Owl books, that's not the theme or the storyline at all.
And we should point out that Robin in the movie is the Damian Wayne Robin, which we all know Damian probably had the most I don't want to say toxic, adverse relationship with Bruce Wayne out of the
most static, the most combative, relationship. Yes,
I mean Jason Todd's got pretty combative, but he didn't last long enough. So
right. Right. But he came back. That
was that
dadgum Lazarus Pit.
No, I like him better since he came back. I like him better as Red Robin than I do as Robin. So, or not Red Robin, but
Red Hood.
Red Hood is than I do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting my freaking Robins mixed up. There's so many of them out there.
That's right. Derek says, prodigal son Jason Todd.
Yeah, that's a pretty good description,
right?
Although the prodigal came back and was would have been the good guy. I don't know if you can call Jason Todd the good guy when he comes back. So
right.
Anyway.
Right. Anyway. All right. So with that, I would say the movie's good. If we want to talk about the movie briefly, or I don't know how to approach this. We should talk to this a little bit more because they are different.
They're quite a bit different.
They really are. Their own stories. And all. Derek says, he says, LOL. He goes, I love their love-hate relationship.
Yeah,
and stuff. So
agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So then let's just stick with that. And then we'll go into really the source material because that's where we're going to spend a lot of time on that. So real quick, the movie itself, I would give 3.5 out of 5 talons. And the reason I say that is because it is a good story on its own. After, this is one of those where I watched the movie after I'd read Court of Owls series. And so I was like,
now, let me ask you something. Have you watched, what is it? Batman, Son of Batman, or
I have seen Son of Batman. Mm-hmm.
The first one.
Yes.
One. Okay.
Yeah, it's really good.
You've seen them both. Now, I think if you put the two of them together, that's an excellent story. I really like it. I like it a lot.
It is one cohesive story because it's, so it is a good one.
My advice, if you're going to watch it, definitely watch Batman and Robin. Yeah, that's what it's called, Batman and Robin. And I think that is borrowing from the events of the comic series line Son of Batman or Batman. Yeah, Son of Batman. I think that's where that comes from, which is in the DC Infinity. If you subscribe to DC Infinity Digital Comics, you can read that. And I think I put that in my to read list because I actually have never read that story. But yeah, I think if you put those two films together, I think it's a really good story. I really like it. But I do agree with you. If you separate them, I'd probably give it a lower rating. But you put them together, and it's fairly high.
Yep. Hi, Janelle. Welcome. Hi, Janelle. Good to have you here. I would say, gosh, it's so different. If you're looking for the Court of Owls storyline, don't go to the animated films. Read the books. Kind of a thing, because they are really good, and there's some classic stuff about them that we're going to talk about and all. So, but as a film in and of itself, in introducing Talon in a tension between the theme of the movies being the relationship between Bruce Wayne, Damian Wayne, ergo Batman and Robin, in those two realms, even the balance between the Wayne life versus the night life. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
there's a tension between the Waynes, a tension between being Batman and Robin, and then there's a tension in those two worlds combining. Sure. And it is a good film. And introducing Talon as part of that tension, actually, I could go with that. It actually worked out pretty well. It did create great tension. Here's another father figure type individual who's trying to, because of his own past, Talon's own past in an orphanage and all that kind of stuff, how he's trying to take care of Robin, but wants Robin to embrace his darker side, or what he would say his true nature is. And, and being the grandson of the demon, kind of a thing, of Ra's al Ghul. That's I think a really interesting connection. And for that movie, I think it works great.
You just made me think of something. So we were discussing a few times on how to pronounce Ra's al Ghul, and you're like, well, some people pronounce it Raish, and some people pronounce it Raz. I just want to state, I saw a video with Alan Moore. Alan Moore is one of the greatest DC writers ever.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
Alan Moore.
What do you say?
Alan Moore penned The Killing Joke, my absolute favorite Batman story.
Okay.
And Alan Moore pronounces it as Raz.
Okay. If he says Ra's al Ghul,
Alan says it's Ra's al Ghul. I'm going to go with what Alan says.
I love it. I love it. Yes. Okay. Ra's al Ghul. Everybody, you hear here today, Two Geeks a Microphone, set a marker in our journey. Here's a mile marker in our journey. It is Ra's al Ghul from here on out. I love it.
As stated by Alan Moore.
Right on. That's where we're taking our, head cannon.
Nice.
All right. So anyway, the movie's good overall. It's not bad. It is worth watching. Is it worth buying digitally? If you've got HBO Max, watch it on HBO Max.
I own it, but I'm kind of a Batman fanatic, so.
Well, I actually bought it. I did buy it. Son of Batman and this one I did buy. I've not gotten Batman and Robin.
I actually own Son of Batman and Batman and Robin on Blu-ray, and that's how I got the digital copies of those. And then I later bought the digital copy of Bloodlines. But again, like I said, you put those two films together, I would give it a 4. I if you put them together,
putting it together as a Batman and Robin epic story,
right?
Yes, I can see that.
Separately, I think I agree with you. I would go with like a 3, separately, but together, awesome. So, my advice, if you're going to watch them, watch the two of them together. But if you just want to learn about Court of Owls, read Court of Owls, because you're not going to learn a lot about the Court of Owls in the film.
You're not going to learn the awesomeness of the storytelling and canon that they're creating and developing, and not reimagining. I don't want to say reimagine. I want to say deeper. They go deeper into the history of Gotham and the Waynes.
Some things were reimagined.
Well, there are some things that are reimagined, yes, and we'll get to that.
Well, yeah, we'll play the clip from Scott Snyder, and he kind of explains his thoughts on what he was thinking when he created the Court of Owls. So
okay, so we may talk about some of the movie points, but we do want to spend a lot of time really about Court of Owls, and then we may drop a movie reference in there, because really the crux, the anchor of this whole Court of Owls is from the comics. And the movie is so different that I want to make sure we spend time. Okay, dun, 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 here is Court of Owls from the comics and the whole series, into a big reveal at the end. So if you're reading the comics and you're like, well, wait a minute, this is it kind of stops at one point. There's several sections of the Court of Owls storyline. And when we reference Court of Owls, we're really talking about the whole storyline, not just the section. If you pull the comics and you say, oh, I just want the Court of Owls, that's limited. There's other series within the whole Owls saga.
So I hadn't read Court of Owls, and I bring it up in DC Infinity, whatever the heck they call
Infinite.
it. Whatever they call it today. I bring it up in there. When I initially brought it up, it came up. I thought I wanted the main story for Court of Owls. And initially it gave me like 6 issues. I was like, oh, okay, I can get the 6 issues read pretty quick. I'm fine with that. And I read the first 2 at the beginning of the week. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, I didn't read anything. So then Thursday night, I read 2 more issues. Thinking, okay, Friday, I only got 2 more issues to read, right?
Right.
So last night, I'm reading, and then it's, you come to the end of the comic book, and it says, do you want to read the next book in the series? Yes. Click. So I read the next one. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm done after this, right? And then it goes, you were in to read the next. Oh, okay. Click. And then, oh, do you want to read the next? What? Okay, fine. Click. Like, oh my God, when does this stop? So then I go back and look at the whole thing. there's like 60 comics in this thing. I'm like, well, you know what, Steven, I ain't getting this done tonight. Right. Sorry. So I got through the main first story of Court of Owls, and I got to say, it's really good. It's good. A really good story. Now, in the beginning, I thought it was a little drawn out, and I was like, there's some of this they could have cut out, you know? But as it goes, the story gets
a whole arc.
Yes.
Much more betterer.
Much more
That's
better.
What you're saying. Okay, I got a drink. We're drinking, everybody.
Dude, I'm almost out of coffee already. And that's my second cup.
Wah, wah. I had my nice hot tea this morning, so I finished it. So I have my other energy drink this morning.
Nice.
Watching my delicate figure.
You bigger?
No comment. So, all right. So yes, as a huge arc storyline, you understand why the beginning was a little. It was kind of an overview, but I appreciate your clip that we'll get to, everybody. We'll get to in a minute. Kind of helped explain why they did what they did at the very beginning of that first episode. And so as a big story arc, it was really good. And in all openness, Mike, I am so sorry. I'll apologize. I forgot that it went through a whole bunch of comics. And
I was like, honestly, Steven, what did you get me into?
Right? Yeah.
Oh, we're going to do this next week. Okay, sure. My goodness.
Whoops. Yeah, my bad. I mean, at least you gave me a heads up about Hush being, a
now,
whole bunch of episodes.
It gave me a great Mr. Freeze story towards the end of it, and that I absolutely loved, and then tied Mr. Freeze into the Court of Owls, which I found fascinating. I love that.
Yes, and what's interesting is I watched Emergency Awesome last week because he did another episode on Batman, and the Batman movie, and there's all kinds of Easter eggs to Court of Owls in the Batman movie, but he has stated, Matt Reeves has stated, I think he stated that, or maybe I could be misunderstanding, but Mr. Freeze is the villain for the second movie, the sequel.
You mean the second storyline?
You're
talking about the Batman.
The Batman #2.
Well, so now see, I've heard rumors of Mr. Freeze. I've heard rumors of the Joker. I've heard rumors of Two-Face. I've heard pretty much rumors of all his rogues gallery.
Everybody,
just about. And Court of Owls.
I like Emergency Awesome because he does bring up some
quotes
here, steps, and I thought, okay, there may be something to this, and he's saying that may be where we begin to see more of the Court of Owls storyline.
Well, now,
I don't know.
Do you think Emergency Awesome's got some insider information that that we don't have, and that's why you think that he's possibly correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I do, because he gets to see the movie early. He's going to see, but he can't because there's a review embargo.
Okay, yeah, but all right. So Valentine's weekend, I went to the Lincoln Theater because Brenda wanted to see Dog, which is a great movie, by the way.
Is it good? Thank you. Okay,
it's really good. I highly recommend going to see Dog. It was great. Not a comic book type movie, but good movie.
Right.
But I thought that Lincoln was going to be showing it on Valentine's evening because Marcus Theaters was. Marcus was having a special. Now, it actually didn't come out till that Thursday, but Marcus was doing a Valentine's special where they were showing one showing that night. And I thought the Lincoln was showing it earlier. So I went to the Lincoln. I was going to get tickets. I actually talked to the owner of the Lincoln Theater. And he's like, no, we're not showing it tonight. And he's like, nobody's showing it tonight. I says, you're wrong. Marcus is. And he's like, I didn't know we could do that. But while I was talking to him, he says, well, I can tell you, I've already seen the movie and it's great. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And so he sees it earlier, but I guarantee you he doesn't get any inside information. He's just getting
just sees it early. I see what you mean.
Just like he saw the Batman. And I looked, I said, wait a minute, you get to see the movie early? He says, yeah. I said, did you see the Batman? He goes, yes. I go, did you like it? He goes, yes. And then what did I say? I asked him something, and he goes, I can't say. I signed an NDA. I'm not allowed to say.
Right.
And I was like, okay, that's cool. I understand, no problem.
Right.
I says, I'm not trying to get any spoilers or anything. I'm just wondering,
You know,
I'm just hoping I like the film. That's all.
You should hit him up on how you get a press pass to see movies because you have your own podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Anyway,
right. Ooh, Mike's gonna. Let's see if we can get Mike all supported to make sure he gets to see movies early and gives us movie reviews. That'd be awesome.
That'd be cool. All right. Do you want to jump into the clip from?
Yeah, let's go ahead. We've mentioned it a couple of times. Let's not keep everybody waiting. So that's a great idea.
All right. So I'm gonna bring it up.
So everybody, what he's bringing up is a clip about how the Court of Owls was born. This was from a Sci-Fi Wire. What's the word? What's the word I'm trying to say? It's a Sci-Fi Wire, like a little news thing on Batman at 80, but they're talking about the New 52, and they're talking specifically about the Court of Owls storyline. And who's in this again?
This is Scott Snyder, the one who penned.
Okay, so the voice you're hearing, everybody's. Okay, it's going to be Scott Snyder. Okay, go.
Best Batman stories in the past decade, it gives us a villain that you can't just throw in Arkham.
For me, the Court of Owls represents some of my worst fears about history coming back to you, not learning the lessons of the past, your home suddenly becoming terrifying to you and strange.
The Illuminati-esque secret society turns one of Batman's biggest allies, the city of Gotham, against him. And the scale and impact of that is greater than threatening the people close to Batman or challenging him as a detective.
I wanted it to feel like Gotham City was suddenly becoming mysterious to Bruce after this intense familiarity he had with it, which is why I start the story with him talking about what Gotham is, and he thinks he knows. That's why it begins that way. He's very confident. And he fights all of his classic villains really easily and takes them out. It's like he's at home just being in Gotham, even when he's fighting the worst villains there. And so it was important to me to have that story present and then weaponize and make terrifying all these different aspects of Gotham's history. And part of that is intertwined with the Wayne family. And the more I knew I could bring in the Wayne history and the more I could make it new and mysterious and scary, the more unsettling it would be to Bruce and the reader. If I could do it in such a way where the city was strange and new and terrifying 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, great. But if I could also show that the Waynes have been at odds with it for that long, and that all these other families might have been on the side of the Court of Owls, and then it would really destabilize everything we know about the Wayne family, Gotham, and Batman himself.
Scott's inspiration for the story was born out of an experience with his own personal Gotham, New York City.
You know, I grew up in the city, and going back to my old neighborhood, I remember when I first got the gig on Batman and seeing it having changed so much and knowing I knew nobody there anymore. It was very scary all of a sudden, seeing that kind of total transformation. And I wondered, well, Batman knows Gotham right now. What about 5 years from now? What about 5 years ago? And if I could weaponize that and make a villain out of that, it would be powerful. It would be really unsettling to him.
Court of Owls is a story designed around destabilization. The destabilization of Gotham, of Batman, and the reader. Issue number 5 is a fan favorite from the series because Snyder and Capullo were able to visually represent that destabilization.
I remember Greg had been begging me to give him more room and less, paneling, less tight direction. And that was the point where I was sort of trying to figure out what can I do, what effect can I describe that would give the reader the effect that Batman's really losing his mind. I was, let me ask Greg. So I loosened up the script and I said, for these pages, I don't know, I just want something that makes you feel crazy. Maybe something spinning in the comic, but like a swirl on the page. And Greg came up with this amazing idea to have the comic book physically invert that way and go all the way around. And DC initially fought us on it. And Greg wrote this really impassioned email where he was like quoting Steve Jobs and going all over the place. And he was like, be foolish. And I was like, what he said. It was the first time we behaved as a team that way too. That was the issue that people really took notice of it and got a lot of buzz.
That buzz turned into booming applause from fans. In DC, they took notice.
I remember when we were doing Court of Owls, we were about 4 or 5 issues in and we were at C2E2 in Chicago. And I was standing next to Bob Bob Harris, the editor-in-chief at DC, and somebody came up in this really elaborate talent costume with a homemade gauntlet and all of this stuff. And Bob turned to me after I had signed their book, and he was like, "You have a hit on your hands."
We've seen the Court of Owls come to life on Gotham and in the animated movie Batman vs. Robin, but a TV show arc amongst other villains in a direct-to-video release doesn't fully capture the ripe cinematic potential of the story. And we're not the only ones that have that opinion.
I hope to see a better Batman than we've ever seen in the next 3 movies. I mean, there'll be Court of Owls, Batman Odyssey, Ra's al Ghul. And if somebody announced that list of movies, my mind would explode.
I hope it inspires creators coming onto the book or that who dream of writing for Batman, that it's possible to make up new villains that have staying power, and that the key to doing that is to write about things that you're afraid of.
Very cool. Very cool.
Sorry, I'm trying to stop it.
We're still learning, everybody.
Now, did you hear Alan Moore? He said, Ra's al Ghul. Oh, and I have to give a shout out to my wife. She's watching right now, and she heard me say that I was out of coffee, so she brought me in my huge Darth Vader mug filled to the rim.
Nice. You have such a nice wife. I take back all those mean things I said about her. No, I'm just kidding. I never said mean things. Sorry, Brenda. I'm teasing.
Anyway. So yeah,
Right,
I like how he compares the and one other thing, Derek said during the video, here we go.
Derek said, the voice you're hearing is Scott Schneider. We spared no expense.
Derek, you're right. We spared no expense. None at all. Love it.
Well, there's a couple of things in that clip that I want to address. The first off, what I really appreciated, this is what I referenced earlier, or what I was hinting at, was the whole story of the history of Gotham. That, you know, he's bringing in the history of Gotham, and, you know, and then there's the, was it his great grandfather or grandfather that, you know,
great grandfather
who said, oh, he was crazy and he fell down a manhole, was how the story went.
I believe that was Alan Thomas. I can't
remember the name all of a sudden, but you know,
I think it was Alan
Wayne.
Yeah.
And he was all crazy or whatever. They're all after us, you know, kind of a thing. And only to, you know, find out, you know, that story of history, that the Court of Owls has been going on that long in Gotham.
Right.
And which is interesting. And we do find in the comic later on that Batman gets thrown in a maze, that Court of Owls maze.
Yes.
Sees the picture that he didn't fall down a manhole and die. He was captured by the Court of Owls and was, in essence, killed. The whole maze thing, we can get into that in a minute, but the whole history of the Court of Owls has been going on for so long. This elite ruling class behind the scenes, kind of like an Illuminati,
right? And it has ties to the Wayne family for a couple generations, actually. So
yes,
going back to Alan Wayne, I think.
Now, when you went through this,
Alan Wayne was the architect. He designed a lot of the buildings, the high rises that we see in Gotham. That was his big contribution to Gotham City.
And even in this story, Bruce Wayne is getting ready to add more buildings to Gotham City. I mean, he's helping rebuild Gotham,
right?
And which I thought, oh, cool. You know, there's a connection to his great grandfather. You know, and I love the history making of this story. And one of my favorite surprises, there's plenty of them. One of my favorite surprises was that the in between the 12th and 14th floors of all the buildings, you know, areas where there would be a 13th floor. There's the owl's nests, and there was different pictures, you know, and I thought it was just the one building first, and but then to realize it was in. Was it in all the buildings?
I think it was in all the buildings that had over 13 floors. That there's some
there's some kind of owl's nest where the Talon hung out.
I meant to actually check and see if that was a real thing, because you know, I can believe that would be a real thing. I mean, not that Owl's Nest would be in it, but that there would be a space for the 13th floor, but not actually, you know.
Yeah, because everybody, if you go into a skyscraper or something, there is no 13th floor button on your elevators.
Right.
So the whole superstition, you know, thing is really fascinating and really interesting about that. So hang on a second. Derek has a comment. Derek is stating, same Stephen. He goes, I love the Gotham City mythology, the 5 families, the founders, sometimes more a fan of regular Gotham stories than just the Rogues Gallery stuff. I like that. Yeah. I think for the Court of Owls story, it brought that into play for me. I'm all about Rogues Gallery, but you're right. In this episode, hearing about Gotham and the story of Gotham and bringing that, and Mike, I really did enjoy that clip where you actually have Scott Snyder saying, yeah, no, I was bringing in the history of Gotham as part of the story and all, which was really good.
And it gave a new twist because, you know, it's like Batman leaves Gotham for a while and then comes back and starts learning all these things that he never knew, where, you know, he thought he knew the city better than anybody else, you know, better than even maybe Commissioner Gordon, the police, you know, the Gotham City police, so on and so forth. But then he found out this hidden, you know, like I like the way he describes them as an Illuminati. You know, that's exactly what I was thinking when I was reading this. This reminds me of the stories behind the Illuminati. So
yeah, there's a ruling elite behind the scenes of everything.
Right. So it's almost Gotham's version of the Illuminati.
Yes.
Very cool.
Yes.
Now, I wanted to talk about what he talked about in the maze.
Yes.
So when he was writing that, he met with Greg Capullo, who's the artist, and said, I want you to convey this in a real crazy way.
This is the whole destabilization.
Right. The destabilization of Batman and how he's kind of going crazy and everything. He's like, I want this to come off visually in the comic book. Okay. I had never read the comic up until this past week. And I'm reading that. I think I was reading that issue Thursday night, I think. And I click, you know, I'm reading it digitally. Okay. And I click, and all of a sudden the panel goes vertical. And I was like, what? Why? And I'm sitting here going, why
it's broken?
That was broken. My thought. I'm like, what? I went out of the browser. I refreshed. I closed the browser. I reloaded. I kept coming back in. It's still doing. And then, you know, you go another panel, and then all of a sudden it's upside down. And I'm going, what the heck is going on? So then there's a thing you can click where you can see the entire page. And I'm like, well, those pages, the one is sideways and the other one is upside down. What is going on with this? So until I watched that clip, I didn't understand what in the heck was going on.
Yeah. And I was on the Kindle app, and I have Kindle Unlimited, and it's part of the Kindle Unlimited library, which is great. And I don't remember it changing when I went through it.
Oh, you would remember if it did.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't remember it doing that unless I just, you know, was going through it real quick. You know,
well, that freaked me out because I thought something was wrong, and I'm like, this is not right. And I'm closing out my browser, and nothing's changing. And then I find out, oh, it's supposed to be like that. Oh, now I get it.
Right. Yeah. Which is very helpful. So everybody, if you go to read the comic and you figure out it's going sideways, then upside down, then sideways and around like a big circle.
It's supposed to be that way.
It's supposed to be that way. So that was pretty insightful.
Loved it.
Yep. So Court of Owls, I loved the villain. Absolutely loved the introduction of Talon. And we first meet Talon when when did we first meet it? Well, my first remembrance of when he tries to attack Bruce Wayne. And you know, when we did Hush, when we had watched Hush, in Red Hush, you know, oh, it's his friend, you know, it's Tom Elliott, you know, Tommy, his little friend Tommy. and because he's the new guy introduced, so he must be the villain. I thought the same thing. I thought, oh, here's his friend who is running for office. I can't remember what it was or whatever. And I thought, oh, it's gonna be this guy. And then they're in the building. They're in Wayne Tower, the top of Wayne Tower, one of the Wayne Tower buildings, talking. In busts Talon and kills the guy. I'm like, well, it's not that guy.
Yeah, but did you not learn anything from Hush though? Because
no, obviously I didn't learn anything from Hush. No, what are you talking? What do you mean?
Well, Thomas Elliott was in the theater with Harley. You know, when Harley took over the show, and he was killed there by Hush.
Right. Right, because it was Clayface, right.
But it was Clayface the entire time. So yeah. Hello.
Okay, all right.
I don't think you learned anything from Hush.
Right. I learned nothing. I go with the flow. I experience it on the moment. I don't remember anything. Of course, that's being over 50 now. I don't remember anything. So I enjoyed Talon coming in right then, and I love the fact that Bruce Wayne was like, "Well, I better hold back because, excuse me, sorry, that I'm going to hold back because I don't want people to know. I don't know who's watching. I don't want them to put two and two together that I'm Batman." And he's like, "I got to step this up a notch." Bruce Wayne's like, "I got to step this up a notch," and I love how he gets thrown out the window, and I'm like, "Uh-oh." You know, kind of a thing. And then he catches himself on the 13th floor gargoyle or something like that, right?
Yep. And I got flashbacks to Hush with that too, because you know we had the falling moment in Hush.
We had the big falling
he
moment.
He actually tries to grab one of the gargoyles and breaks. He literally breaks his shoulder when he does it.
Right. And Brenda's making fun of me. She's saying, "You better remember Kelly's birthday." I remember her birthday. I'm not going to say it on air because, you know, I don't want to give out any, you know, credentials. I know Brenda's birthday. That's good. That's good. I know Kelly's birthday.
I know our anniversary. You know your anniversary?
I know my anniversary, by golly.
Okay, you're good.
Gentlemen, just saying, these are important things. We as brothers, as husbands, must stick together and remind ourselves our wives' birthdays and anniversaries. That's why we're talking through it, because you got to make sure to remember these things.
I know my birthday, my wife's birthday, my daughter's birthday. I know my sister's birthday, and I know Jason's birthday, and beyond that, I don't know anything.
Yeah. Just a side note, my dad, if those don't know, my dad was a pastor. He did all the education and stuff like that. But he goes, "Son, I got two things for you about marriage." He goes, "The first thing is to remember birthdays and anniversaries. You got to remember those." And he says, "Now the second thing is a phrase I want you to remember all your life. Yes, dear. You're right, dear. Whatever you say, dear."
I don't remember him giving me that advice. Because, you know, your dad counseled us.
Yeah.
We got married. Now. I don't remember him giving me that advice. Might be the source of our arguments. I don't know.
All right. Back to Court of Owls. So I love
that was a weird rabbit trail.
Yep. I love Talon as a character, and I love the fact that in the comics, you're not for sure what the deal is with Talon in the beginning. He's like, he falls all the way down off the building, crashes into a car. They put him in an ambulance, which, look, I'm just saying, if you fall off a building and hit the bottom, you're not in a body anymore, kind of a thing. But anyway, they put his body in an ambulance, and then he reanimates, and he takes over the car.
I don't know. Batman survived in Hush.
Well, that's true too.
And he was up in the tops of the buildings. I mean, he was.
All right, it's a comic book. You got me there. Okay, it's a comic.
Okay, well, I complained about another. We'll get to the one I complained about.
Okay, so anyway, but here's then all of a sudden he's back. He's like, dude, how did he survive that fall? And that whole interest of you know, Batman was trying to crush his windpipe and couldn't do it. You know, he's like, that should crush anybody's windpipe, you know, at only 10, 15 pounds of pressure. And I'm putting in 100 pounds of pressure. Now,
I want to know how he knows exactly how much
He's
pressure.
He's got a special machine in the Bat Cave. He just puts his arm around it.
It sends him a message in his cowl or something.
Or well, it's here he's practicing different chokeholds, and it's telling him how much pounds of pressure, and that's how he does his workout routine. It's about how much pressure he can do. All right, this week I got 15 pounds of pressure. Next week I'm going to practice 20 pounds of pressure. I'm just kidding. I have
now you're making me feel stupid for the complaint that I had earlier. before we went on, I was complaining about a portion of the comic. I was like, oh, come on, that's just ridiculous. And now that you're bringing these things up, I'm like, well, I guess that isn't as far-fetched as these are. So,
well, we'll see. So, point being is, Talon is an interesting character. Now, in the movie, Batman versus Robin movie, he was an individual character kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Sort of, but he was an individual who had a character, had a story, backstory, the whole bit kind of a thing. And they alluded to the whole reanimating of people. They have a special serum. They have their own venom, the venom, thing. They have their own to reanimate individuals, and which is kind of interesting, kind of spooky, if kind of a thing.
Well, we find out
zombify.
Yeah, right. It's Gotham zombies is what it is. Which is funny because when you and I watched the movie together last week, and remember in the movie they did that. They did the whole reanimation and brought several of them back as Talons. Of course, they do that in the comic too, but
I was bring them all back in
they sure did. That was cool.
That's the whole Night of Owls storyline. Yes.
Right. But I asked you right then. I was like, did they do that in the comic book? And you're like, I don't remember that. And yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did.
So that was one of the cool
aspects. I'd forgotten that part.
Movie that they borrowed from the comic.
Now that's the second section of the Court of Owls storyline. Court of Owls begins and introduces Talon. Batman escapes from the maze, which is just a great thing. I mean, and he had been down there for a while, so long that people thought he was dead.
Yep.
It was a week or something like that. They're like, we haven't seen Batman, and we're trying to keep, kind of a thing, and so then he escapes that. And then part 2 is where they're like, well, we're just going to send all the owls out, or all the Talons. We're send all the Talons out. They reanimate them all and they send them all out, and to take Gotham by force and kill all the elites who are not part of the Court of Owls.
Right. Alfred discovers a hit list actually, and it's got a
list. That's right.
It's got a list of every major person in Gotham City, from the mayor to Commissioner Gordon to city engineers, and just everybody who's important to Gotham City. They've got a hit list, and each one of those people have a Talon coming after them.
Yes.
And it's that point that Bruce says, send out the call. And he puts out the call to the whole Bat family.
The whole Bat family.
So we're
Red Hood and the Vigilantes was Robin,
Nightwing, Batgirl.
Right. Now, we did not read all those extra stories because that was a huge crossover event. Huge, because every other comic book that was Batman related had a Court of Owls or this Night of Owls story.
But it gave you a nice little thing for each one of them.
Yes.
So, it showed Batgirl heading out to save whoever it was that she's got on the list, so on and so forth. They each took somebody on the list and they went to save them. So you got a feel for that. You don't really have to read each of those each of those issues,
comics issues,
to get the full story. It's there.
But it was a nice crossover because then realize, oh, they're trying to, and I guess they don't save every, there's not that many that get saved, if I remember right, because he goes and he says, well,
you have a lot more Talons than you do in the Bat than people in the Bat family. So
yeah. And it was really interesting, and we're taking back Gotham tonight. That was Court of Owls. And then he finds out it's this individual, or he's pretty sure it's this individual, and there begins the City of Owls continuation.
Had a flashback to Halloween Kills. When you said that, all I could hear in my head was, "Evil dies tonight."
Right.
No, it won't. There's a third movie coming. Shut up. Stop saying that.
Right. So then, which we will do a review for that one too, everybody. Just wait and see. I would say that when we begin the third act, I'm just going to call it the third act of the Court of Owls story, we get one of the biggest reveals, for me personally, one of the biggest reveals of all of Batman history and story. And I'm dying to talk to you about this.
Okay,
and get your thoughts.
Before we get to that, we had another reveal that Bruce Wayne discovers that the Talon is actually, that first Talon is actually Dick Grayson's great-grandfather?
Grandfather or great-grandfather.
Something like that.
But he's part of the Grayson family.
Right, he was part of the Grayson family, so he was related to Dick. Maybe he was the Talon. I don't remember. I can't remember what his name was. Anyway, but that's when the moment I complained about. That's when Bruce and Dick are talking, and I don't know, Dick says something and Bruce punches him right in the mouth and knocks out right in the jaw, knocks out one of his teeth. And lo and behold, it just happens to be the exact tooth that has the little owl imprint on it, which is what he discovered on the
Talon.
On the Talon.
His grandfather, right.
And what he was trying to reveal to Dick was that he was actually in line to become the next Talon. I was like, okay, so you're going to punch him in the face and exactly knock out the right tube. Oh, William Cobb. That's right. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Derek, our Tito. Watch Geeky Dad, or listen to Three Geeky Dads, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. Derek's one of the co-hosts of Three Geeky Dads. Great podcast, by the way. I've been listening to several of their episodes this month. They're doing a fantasy series. It's been really good. Check them out. Anyway, but I was complaining because I'm like, okay, I went to the dentist a few years ago with a really, really super bad toothache. Okay. And they actually told me that I needed 4 teeth pulled because they were really bad. Oh. And, when and they weren't going to pull them that day though. So I had to reschedule, come back, and I had a second dentist come in. He checked my teeth. He looks over my x-rays and everything. And he gets to that one and he goes, look, I know the other dentist said that we're going to pull 4. He says, we're only pulling 3 because that one has so many roots and nerves wrapped around it. I don't feel like being a hero, and I don't think you feel like getting it pulled. And I says, you're right. Let's go with that. So now, if my dentist has troubles pulling a tooth, how do you think Batman's going to knock out the exact tooth? So, that was my complaint. But then you started talking about the fact that he falls off of a building, hits the ground. He should be freaking dead. And then I forgot what else you said, and I was like, okay, maybe my tooth complaining is superficial.
Yep. Now that part I think takes place in the night of Owls part because while they're doing that, it's when they attack.
Yes. Which is a great scene, and that scene was also done in Batman versus Robin movie.
Yes.
And I love that scene. I love the scene in the comic book, and I love the scene in the movie. I thought they did a great job.
the big old bat suit.
Batman comes out in the big armored bat suit. I love it.
Right.
We should just deem that Iron Batman.
Right. We're crossing the streams. We're crossing the streams.
Well, and the reason he does that is because Batman discovers that the colder it is, the Talons become less effective because of the fact that they're reanimated.
They're reanimated. Mm-hmm.
Right. So he has Alfred shut down the main what is it, dining room or whatever, main hall of Wayne Manor, puts it into I don't know, lockdown, and then reduces the heat all the way down to below freezing, like I don't know, something like 20-30 degrees below freezing or something crazy like that. And he's like, well, but Bruce, what are you going to do? And he's like, trust me, I have something. And he comes out in the Iron Bat suit.
It's like, that's so awesome.
Freaking awesome. I love the Iron Bat suit.
Yes. It kind of reminded me in the Marvel movies, the Iron Man, the anti-Hulk.
Oh, the
outfit.
Hulkbuster.
The Hulkbuster, that's what it was called. Yes, the Hulkbuster. That's what it reminded me of that. So it's the Talon Buster.
That's because Bruce is so much bigger than Tony Stark, Tony's kind of this little scrawny guy, and Bruce is like this massive,
Right. The inflatable bulk.
Here we go. This is my DC versus Marvel coming out.
Right. All right. I hear you.
Anyway.
So moving on to, Batman in his journey, finds the Court of Owls. He comes back to the house. And when he was a kid, trying to find out who killed his parents, and he was convinced that something else was going on. He does his whole detective work. He goes back to this house where he thinks this is where the whole Court of Owls thing is, and then only to find out that it's not. When he's a kid, it depresses him, kind of a thing, and it really had a mark on him, which I totally understand. But then to find out the whole thing was real, and then to go back to that house and then find the whole Court of Owls, they're all dead. They're all sitting around a table and they're all dead. It's like, they did a Jim Jones thing. First impression was they did a Jim Jones, what's the word? They all drank the Kool-Aid kind of a thing, and they're all dead.
I wonder if they're all wearing red Nikes and had how much money did each one was supposed to have so much money. And oh boy, this would be a great story for Nerdery and Murdery.
Right. That it would, by golly, that it would.
Another shout out, Nerdery and Murdery.
Right. Here, let's see. Manili asked, would you want to see or would y'all want to see Court of Owls in a sequel for Pattinson's Batman? At the beginning, we addressed that a little bit. Thanks for joining us. I do. I want to see Court of Owls as part of the Batman, and there seems to be echoes of Hush, echoes of what else? The Long Halloween, and there's even echoes of Court of Owls, because remember, he gets that card that has the owl on the front in the trailer. So that's why I think that, and I really hope we get it. And I hope it's done with justice. You know what I mean? They stay true to kind of the story and stuff, but it's tough to say.
I got a feeling that we're going to get this movie is going to be kind of the Johnny Appleseed of his movies, where you're going to get sprinklings of things.
I like that.
All through the film, and it's just planting seeds going, this is just an inkling of what's to come.
To come.
Right.
Yeah. Who's Johnny Appleseed? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you. Just teasing. No, that's a great metaphor analogy. The whole thing with Johnny Appleseed. I like that. That was good.
Even though you don't know who Johnny Appleseed is.
Right. Right. I'm teasing.
Put up Derek's comment.
So Derek, ugh, no more Pattinson. Yes, Court of Owls, but no Pattinson.
So we come back to Sparkly Vampire again.
Yes, that we do.
I have my fears. But I'll go back to Michael Keaton, 1989. I heard Keaton's going to play Batman again. Love Keaton. He's one of my favorite actors. He's definitely my favorite Batman. But back then, all I could think of was, what? Mr. Mom's going to play Batman? How's that going to work? You know?
Right.
So,
Right.
Again, if Mr. Mom can be Batman, I have hopes that a sparkly vampire can pull it off. We'll see.
Yes. Let's find out together.
And we
tune
will
in next week. Next week we're going to talk about it. So
same bat time, same bat channel.
He's been waiting to say that all day. Manili says, I think Pattinson will do great. He was excellent in Good Time.
Never seen it.
I haven't seen it, but I am aware that he has been working on his craft. And I mentioned this earlier. Ever since the Twilight movies, he's really been trying to do unique and really pushing the limits of his acting ability to make himself better. So that's why I'm like, okay, I want to see what he does. And Matt Reeves had a whole bunch of actors who wanted to become Batman, and he had a specific vision in mind. And I think that's the story that we're seeing with Pattinson. He chose him for this role, and so I think it's gonna. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens and stuff. I could be wrong, and I'll admit it if I'm wrong next week. But that's next week.
I think the movie looks great. I really do. I just told you I have a few hesitations. My main hesitation is the Riddler. Actually, I'm less worried about Robert Pattinson than I am the Riddler and what they've done to him, because to me, he does not seem like the Riddler from the comic books. He seems like a totally different character. So that's my big fear about the film.
Yep.
I also think that the Batmobile looks more like what's the hot rod movies that I don't watch?
Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, thank
Fast
you.
and Furious.
Thank you, Megan.
Nice, Megan.
that voice that came out of nowhere was Megan, our moderator. Anyway, yeah, it just kind of reminds me of Fast and Furious. Well, it reminds me of the main car in Fast and Furious, because all the rest of them are those, import crappy wannabe hot rods, not real hot rods.
Right.
So it does look like a cool hot rod. I just don't get the feel of the Batmobile yet. So
right. Here, put up what Derek says about the Riddler, because since we're talking about it.
All right, go ahead and read it, Stephen.
The Riddler in the Arkham series is the best, and this seems more than Vane a Saw killer type.
Yeah.
Interesting, Derek. Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't know. And the funny thing is, when I talked to the guy from the owner at Lincoln Theater, when I asked him if he saw the movie, he says, what are you concerned about with the movie? And I said, I'm concerned about the Riddler. And he goes, what about the Riddler? I said, because I feel he's not going to live up to the Riddler in the comic books. I don't think he's the same. And he goes, well, I don't read the comic books. So what exactly are you talking about? The guy in the green jumpsuit with the question marks? And I'm like, well, he doesn't necessarily have to be the jumpsuit and the green question marks. They've portrayed him in other ways in the comic book. But yes, he does have the question marks. And yeah, that is part of his character. I agree. But he just does not look like the Riddler. He looks more like, I don't know what I picture a scarecrow, a modern scarecrow to be. So again, that's my biggest fear. I may be totally wrong. He may blow me away. We'll find out next week.
Right. Yes, we will. Well, I think all that's important because I wonder, based upon the trailers, what we've seen, what little we've seen. I mean, come on, we've got Andy Serkis as Alfred. That's cool. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, yeah.
But it makes it seem like that Alfred seems to know something about the past. Again, we're coming back to this history of Gotham.
Right,
in
which could
this.
tie into the Court of Owls because Alfred had knowledge of the
Right.
Court of Owls, that he did not reveal to Bruce.
Mhm.
So yeah, well,
Mhm.
that's where I said I think we're gonna have these Johnny Appleseed moments. I think that's
Mhm.
planting the seed. I don't think we're gonna see the Court of Owls in this film.
No,
No,
but
because I think it's gonna focus on Riddler and Penguin. But
Mhm.
I think we're gonna
Mhm.
get sprinklings of the Joker. I think we're gonna get sprinklings of Court of Owls.
Mhm.
I think we'll get a sprinkling. There's gonna be a tease probably of Two-Face, of Harvey Dent. We'll probably get a mention of him. He's probably gonna be running for DA or something. So I
Yeah,
think we're
because
getting those plantings. Is what
I think we're getting kind of a beginning of a new Batman series, if that makes sense. I don't think we're getting an origin story, thank goodness.
We don't need another origin story.
We don't. We don't.
I've seen
But
it.
I do think we're seeing the growth, the character growth of Bruce Wayne, Batman kind of a thing. Because from my understanding, the Penguin, this I got from Emergency Awesome, the Penguin is not he's working for Falcone in this movie because you see Falcone. So he's working his way up.
They did that in the Gotham TV series too.
Did they?
Penguin worked for Falcone in that also, and then Falcone kicked him out, and he played because you had two different rival mobs in Gotham. I forget the other one because the other one was headed by Jada Pinkett, Will Smith's wife.
Right. When I watched the first season, she was right.
I loved her. I thought she was fantastic.
Her character was Fish Mooney.
That's right. Yeah. Fish Mooney. Loved her. She was awesome.
That's right. Nice. Thank you, Megan.
So you had
Derek. Sorry, Megan beat you this time, bud. You got to be quicker. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Well, Megan's technically our Tito now, so another callback to Three Easy Dads.
No, I appreciate you, Derek. I'm just playing, man.
But they kind of did that in the Gotham TV series, which the first several seasons of Gotham TV series is fantastic, and then it just nosedives after that.
Well, I didn't realize, based upon the clip that you showed, the Sci-Fi Wire, I didn't realize Court of Owls was part of Gotham and all.
Yeah, they delved into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I really should go back. I guess we should do a whole, hey everybody, should we do a whole episode on the Gotham series and all? It'll take us a while to get through it all, I'm sure, but
Man, you're gonna torture me, aren't you?
No. Sorry.
Some of that I love. Some of it I really, really love. And then
maybe we'll just do what you like. The parts that you like.
Screwed up the Joker. Oh gosh, they screwed that up. You had this kid that was the perfect young Joker. And then they turn him into, I don't know, the Joker's brother or oh my God, I don't want to relive that.
Right.
It hurts.
All right. Now this sets up though the last part I want to talk about, the third part. We're already at an hour 13, so I want to wrap this up. I want to talk about the big reveal. This is really important to me because I really wanted to get your thoughts on it. Really want to get your thoughts on this. So the big reveal, it comes up, as I was saying, everybody was dead. All the Court of Owls was lying there dead, poisoned. And then you realize, well, I don't think they drank willingly, kind of a thing. I think that it was a whole sabotage, murder kind of situation. Two, lo and behold, it was the guy's name. Oh, what was his name? Not who he says he is later. Oh, I can't remember.
I can't
all
remember
of a sudden
his name either.
But it was the guy who he knew, who he said, oh, he's the guy who head up the whole Court of Owls. This is the guy who's been behind the scenes, kind of a thing. And then there's this big battle. And in the big battle with Batman, it's revealed that he is, go ahead, Mike, he is
Bruce Wayne's brother.
Older brother.
Right.
That crazy
no, he wouldn't be the older brother. He'd be the younger brother. Because we find out later. No. Bruce is like 3 years old when Martha's pregnant.
Oh, I missed that part. I got confused on that part.
I read a couple issues ahead of you, and it's his younger brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who is Thomas Wayne Jr.?
Right. Which now that's funny because why would he have named Bruce the firstborn Bruce and then the secondborn Thomas Wayne Jr.? Usually the first.
That's why I thought it was switched. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, but
me
see,
off.
they show in the comic books that Bruce is actually 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have to read a couple more issues and then we'll discuss it. But yeah, the junior confuses people. Ain't that the truth?
Derek says the junior confuses people. Yeah,
I agree.
Excuse me.
I agree.
So, yeah, but I would say here is. I liked that development and the way they told the story, or how Bruce Wayne kind of does the epilogue of that kind of makes sense, where he says, well, there was a car accident, blah, 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 blah. It seemed this at the same, they told that the baby died. And then all of a sudden we find out that there's this baby the next day that was taken to the orphanage, who's dropped off at the orphanage. Lo and behold,
she's wearing the pin. She's wearing the pin that all the mothers of the children that are at the orphanage get. She's wearing the exact same pin. But he also reasoned that away, that they gave a lot of money to the orphanage. So
she supported the orphanage, so and she made multiple trips to the orphanage.
Right.
So,
but then that also questions, okay, is she making multiple trips because her son's there?
Right.
Yeah, so
it was intriguing. It made it very intriguing and very much a mystery. But he disappears though, doesn't he? So he could return at any time.
He's presumed to be dead.
Right. Yeah, but this is the comics. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm just saying
Could you imagine the two Wayne brothers? Dun dun dun. Batman versus Brother Man. whatever character. Well, Talon. He would be Talon technically, wouldn't he? Wouldn't he be Talon?
Oh yeah. Well, yes. Again, read the next few issues.
Right.
Yes, he becomes the second Talon. And by the way, he's got a cool look too. He really looked cool. I guess I should.
He had a great look. Yes, he did. What are you reading? Okay.
I was reading Brenda's comment.
So Brenda says, what mom would knowingly let her son grow up in an orphanage? It's a very good point. That's why it's so hard to say.
And it's hard to imagine that the Waynes were like that. That's one thing. But then that also gives him a motive to be like he is too. So
right. Well, yeah, that's a good point. So now we have a brother.
Gives
now
him a better motive than it did Thomas Elliot.
Oh, right. I wanted both my parents dead. That was crazy. I agree with you on that. That was
I wanted both my parents dead so I can have all their money.
Yeah. Right. I'm like, no, that means you were sadistic from the very beginning, kind of a thing. But maybe it was meant to, kind of a thing. I don't know. I don't know.
It seemed weak to me. I think.
Well,
I think this is a stronger motive than that is.
Yeah, but I do like, that's one of the things about the whole Owl storyline that I really did enjoy, this new character, Talon, and then introducing there at the end the Thomas Wayne Jr. aspect of it. I'm like, oh,
that was mind blowing. Because I've never heard in my life that Bruce had any siblings. So that just totally blew my mind. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
Bruce
and it's
is
still
a brother?
Yeah, it's still questionable. Was he just saying that, or was he just creating this narrative or not? We don't have a full what's the word I'm trying to say? Explanation or canon to that, but it does set up great story for later on.
Right.
Kind of a thing. And who knows, maybe that's this whole story that we get with the Batman, that it's not the Riddler, kind of a thing. Maybe it's Thomas Wayne Jr.
Put up Derek's latest.
Derek says
it's very soap opera-ish. Yes, I agree.
Yes.
Totally agree.
Very much so. And that's why we love it.
I don't know if I'll say that. I don't like soap operas, so. Yeah.
But it's the same
yeah,
principles.
It's the same style. I mean, comic books have been doing that for years, though. So
right, but see, instead of drama love stories in soap operas, we get action, adventure,
Right.
you know.
We get
And then
more,
there's some love stories
yeah,
because of Catwoman and Batman we talked about last week in Hush. So yeah,
which is great, which is awesome.
which is very good.
Now, I also want to say that I love the whole bringing in the owls and the fact that owls are actually natural predators of bats. I love that aspect of this and making him this, adversary to Batman. That I thought was really cool.
Yes.
I also
Yes.
love. There's a panel in the comic where Bruce talks about how, back a couple generations, the Wayne Manor, how the cave was infested by bats, and they tried everything to get rid of the bats. And that's part of what led to him with the cold, realizing the cold is what stopped the zombified,
The zombie talons, right?
because they thought they got rid of the bats, but then it got so cold in the bat cave, the bats came back, and they came back more aggressive. So I love that aspect of the story. I think it's great. That's a lot of fun. I also want to state this could be controversial too, to comic book fans anyway. I'm not the biggest fan of Greg Capullo's art.
Oh, okay.
I mean, some of the panels, it just pops off the page and looks incredible, and then there's others I'm like, I just don't like that.
He's on a time budget. He's not Jim Lee who says you'll get it whenever you get it.
Yeah, but Jim Lee made his budget. Jim Lee did make his budget. He made a bet. I talked about that.
Right. But that's not all his work.
And
so
Jim Lee, all of his Batman issues were just phenomenal. The art was phenomenal in them. And this, it's like some of them are really, really incredible and jump right off the page. And then the next panel, it's like, what did you do there, Capullo?
He goes, I was in a rush. I had a deadline.
I guess. Granted, I can't draw like him. I'll give him that. But
right,
I'm not a comic artist making whatever he makes. I don't know what he makes.
I don't think they get paid a whole lot.
Oh, I think he's a big name. He gets paid a lot.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Capullo, and now back when he started, no, he wasn't making jack squat.
Well, I still remember having that conversation with Mike Grell there at Comic-Con that we went to, and how they were, he was so gracious. He said, "Hey, I'll sign your stuff if you put money into this jar to help with the medical funds of these artists who."
Right. Well, Alan Moore told the whole story about the creators of Superman, Joel Shuster and gosh, I can't think of the two names.
My brain went to Siskel and Ebert, so I probably just sorry, that wasn't
dork. You're a dork. But yeah, that they, one of them had went blind, the other was totally broke, and and so they had no money, and DC wasn't giving them any medical insurance, and honestly, they weren't even paying them anymore at this point. They weren't even getting royalties off of the Superman titles, and Alan Moore and a bunch of other artists went up to bat for them and fought to get that. He also told this great story about, but these were back in the days of the 70s. It was different back then. It was a lot different, and yeah, artists weren't making the money that they make today. Artists make a hell of a lot more money today, at least once they're established.
Great. Now I got to put an explicit lyric or explicit label on.
Oh, because I said hell. Want to see my new Striper shirt?
It's backwards.
It says, "Kicking the devil's ass since 1984.
Oh,
my wife won't let me wear it to church. She says it's not appropriate for church. I love this shirt. Got my Striper hat on today too.
Right on. I love it. Love it.
Now you have to put an E on it. I said kicking the devil's ass. How's that?
Right.
Yeah, I got a great story about my "To Hell with the Devil" shirt if you want to hear that. From 1987, after I got to see Striper in concert for the very first time. You remember Brian Willis?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay, so Brian Willis was a friend of ours from high school, good friend.
He was in the youth group with us.
Yeah, He was in the youth group, and he was in band. Did he do show choir with you?
No,
Oh, okay. I thought for some reason I thought he was in show choir too. Anyway, Brian's the one who introduced me to Stryper back in like 1986, and so when Stryper came to St. Louis for the Tell with the Devil tour in 1987, I went and seen the show. After the next day, I go to school. Brian surprised me. He bought me a Stryper tour shirt, which because I didn't have the cash to buy one, and it was this cool shirt. It was red. On the breast, it had the Stryper logo with the triangle. On the back, and huge yellow flames, and then it said "To hell with the devil." So he bought that for me. I proudly put it on. I'm walking through school with my new Stryper T-shirt on and everything. I go to lunch. Remember Mrs. Eckert, Dean of Students?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mrs. Eckert comes walking up to me. I'm sitting there at lunch, and she goes, Mike, what's your T-shirt say? And I stand up proudly and turn around. It says, "To hell with the devil." And she goes, and I went, "What?" She says, "All right, you're going to have to either turn the shirt inside out or put something over it." I was like, "What?" "Well, it has an explicit word on it." I go, "Hell? Really? That's what you're complaining about?" I go, "You're taking it out of context, first of all." And she's like, "It doesn't matter. You can't say that." And I was ticked. I said, "Fine. I'm going back to my locker. I'll grab my jacket, my denim jacket with all my heavy
I
metal."
remember that jacket. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. It got stolen.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I got stolen years ago. But anyway, I went and got my jacket. I carried it around with me, but I didn't ever put it on. I'm like, no, I'm not putting it on. Forget you. So then the next day I come in armed with my Bible with the album cover or the cassette cover, I think, and everything. And I'm like, "Look, this is where it comes from, blah, 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 blah." And then I just got pissed and said, "Well, why is it I can't wear a To Hell with the Devil T-shirt, but Kenny Sharp can wear a shirt that says, 'To hell with your mountains, let's see your bush'?"
Right.
Now, how many things does that say?
Right.
So, anyway, frustrations of high school.
Yes. And he still hasn't gotten it over, everybody. It's 32 years.
Yeah. Still haven't got it over. And then there was an addendum to that. So like a year later, some friends of mine, because Mrs. Eckert said, "If it said 'to heck with the devil,' then I could let you wear it." And so I think it was about a year later, some friends of mine had a T-shirt airbrushed for me that had the Stryper logo on the front. It was red, and then on the back it had the flames, and it said "To heck with the devil." And lo and behold, I was allowed to wear that to school.
That's funny. I forgot all about that.
Anyway.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. All right. Well, hey. All right. We got to wrap up Court of Owls. And all. So would you say, should you buy the comic series? Or would you just, if you've got the app, do it digitally? What would you say? Is it worth buying? That's probably the way we should say that.
I didn't look it up on Amazon. But I think if you're going to buy this, it's going to be expensive.
Yeah, the omnibus is pretty expensive.
Yeah, the omnibus is going to be holy, very expensive.
Yes. So you're better off for the price of the omnibook. You could get a subscription to Kindle Unlimited and or DC Infinite for a year, for almost 2 years. Well, I don't know how much Infinite is right now. I think you get specials.
I'm enjoying the DC Infinite. I like it. I mean, I'd rather have the physical copies. I mean, we talked about that. But it is nice to be able to go, "Oh, I want to read this," and it makes for great research for our podcast.
That it does.
Eric says he thinks it's $75.
Oh, that's not bad. It's bad. I love Green Arrow, and Mike Grell Green Arrow especially, just because I met him and he's a neat guy. But I think the omnibus for Green Arrow popped up on my Amazon thing for $150 for the Longbow Hunter series.
Yeah, that I'd be reading digitally.
Yes, very much so.
I don't
Derek
know.
says he's got both Marvel and DC. Right on.
Well, I've been using Comixology for our Marvel stuff, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Although
Cool.
Comixology is now wrapped into Amazon. Oh my gosh.
They're making adjustments. That I saw a
Yeah,
news
issues
article where
about
people
that.
are upset.
Good. Good. They
Comixology
should be.
people. So they'll make Amazon will make adjustments. They'll take the feedback and they'll make the adjustments.
Yeah, they're an evil empire like Disney is.
Everybody's an evil empire. I am an evil empire. Dun dun dun.
Oh yeah, you got Amazon money.
No.
Anyway,
I wish I
sorry.
did. I wish I
Tangent.
did.
Rabbit,
Mhm.
squirrel. Sorry.
We did a lot of squirrels the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Court of
So,
Owls.
Court of Owls. Would you buy it? And you said probably expensive because of how much is involved in it, but it is worth buying the DC Infinite app to read it all.
Sorry, I just saw Derek's comment. Thanos was right.
Oh my goodness. Also a reference back
Derek,
to
we're trying to wrap up, dude.
right. Reference. I enjoy that reference back to our whole series on Hawkeye. Love
Hawkeye, yeah.
Yep.
Great, awesome.
I have a thing for archers. I love archers.
I would say check the price of it in Amazon if you really feel that you want to read it that way, and you can afford it, go for it. Other than that, I would say that the digital subscription is probably more affordable, and I would go that route. But
yeah,
yeah,
and you get so much more. I'm
a hardcore Batman fan too, with like 4 trade paperbacks sitting by my side right now. So.
Right. That's funny. All right, everybody. Well, we're going to wrap up because
put it on your Christmas list.
There it is. Right. Actually, do it for Black Friday because I bet you there's going to be a Black Friday sale going on with it. Just saying.
Yeah,
everybody does Black Friday sales.
That's an old story, though. So I don't know.
No. I just mean the whole thing of getting the app. The app there may be a special for the app, kind of a thing. All right. Well, we also everybody have a special episode coming up too. So, Mike, do you want to talk about that real quick?
Oh, the one we're going to do later today. Okay.
Yes.
I was like, wait a minute. We talked about a few things earlier.
We did talk about a lot of things. Yeah, I'm sorry. My bad. Yeah. Today.
So yeah, we'll be signing off here in a few minutes. I promise. And we're going to take a break. We're going to come back at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. Right. 1 Central Standard Time. We're going to come back. And we're going to do kind of a retrospective of season 1 of Book of Boba Fett. But we've got with us at that time Boba Fett himself, Mark Anthony Austin's coming back to join us. And he's going to give his take and how he felt about season 1. I'm excited to see his take on it because when we had him on, after he was a little bit inebriated,
we loved it. Loved it.
It was fantastic. We had a great time with him, but he had a huge complaint about Boba not having his helmet on enough. So I'm really excited to hear what he has to say about the full season. I got a feeling that there's going to be things that he didn't like that we like, and it's just going to be fun to see what he thinks of it. So
yeah, we're just going to have
come back, join us, hear Boba Fett, not the Boba Fett, but a Boba Fett. And see what he has to think about Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, A New Hope Specialized Edition Boba Fett.
Yes. He was the one who, when in the added scene with Jabba in front of the Millennium Falcon, I know some people cringe at that scene. I actually like the scene. The part with Han walking over the tail was kind of dumb, but he walked behind the actor originally, so they had to do what they had to do,
They had to do something, yeah.
But when I remember seeing that in the theater, when Boba Fett walked on the screen, I literally cheered. Yes, Boba Fett.
Yep, and this was him.
And it was him. And did I ever think that I would get to talk to him? And this will be the 3rd time he's on the podcast too. So
yep. Yeah, he's been a hoot. So, all right, everybody. Well, with that, I gotta wind us out because we got to get ready for that. So, hey, everybody, thanks for joining us. Please be back at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time if you want to catch Mark Anthony Austin, Boba Fett, talk about the Book of Boba Fett. All right, Mike. Well, I'll leave it to you to sign us out.
Okay, remember to check us out on twogeeksmike.com. That's our hub, our portal to everything Two Geeks. Also, check us out on Ko-fi. We are getting ready to record our first Ko-fi only episode. Should we announce what it is, Stephen?
Yes, go for it.
Our first Ko-fi tongue work.
Mm-hmm. You got it. You got it. You can do this.
Will be for our sci-fi classic series, Logan's Run, the classic sci-fi movie Logan's Run. If you have not seen it, watch it. It's a pretty cool movie. It's on Warner Brothers.
I think it's on HBO Max still.
Oh yeah. Well, that's Warner Brothers. Sorry, but yeah, HBO Max. Yeah, we got to double check to make sure that's still there because we need to rewatch it. Right. We actually had plans to record this a year ago and just haven't gotten around to it. So anyway, so check us out over there. In the meantime, I'll take us out. And with that said, over and out. And may the Force. Hold on, I'm looking for my outro. May the Force be with you. Oh, man, I forgot all about what I'm doing here. Video.
That is okay.
Video, not audio. Thank you for joining us today on the Two Geeks and a Microphone podcast. Tune in next week when we will have more news and reviews. Until then,